A few moments ago, I reversed a statement about joy being the surest sign of the presence of God by asking the question, is the absence of joy the surest sign of the absence of God in our lives? I believe the answer to that question is yes. We can find happiness in any variety of ways. At a bare minimum, happiness is a state of mind we can choose to assume, however irrational it may appear. But joy is different. You and I cannot produce it. And the reason we can't is that God is the only source of joy. Try as hard as we like, we simply cannot decide for it to be present. Rather, joy comes as a byproduct of obedience. Listen to what Jesus said. If you obey my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have obeyed my Father's commands and remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. Have you been obedient to the King? Is the flag of joy flying over the castle of your heart to indicate that he is in residence today?
Some 20 years ago, I made the assumption that a person called a shut-in lived a dreary life, devoid of joy, no purpose, no hope. 85-year-old Alma taught me otherwise. Shut-in may mean that a person can't drive or even walk very far, but it doesn't mean a person doesn't have a life. As I spent several summer days chatting with Alma, I learned the value of simply listening. We didn't have a think tank meeting or an in-depth prayer session. We just chatted. Her husband, now gone to be with the Lord, my future wife. She often repeated her favorite stories, and when I'd get back to the office, if someone asked me if I had visited the shut-in, I took offense. And with a mouthful of chocolate chip cookies, I'd answer, if you mean, was I with Alma, that wise saint, then yeah, that's where I was. When I'm unable to drive or get out of the house and somebody calls me a shut-in, I pray I'll have half the wisdom of Alma. I hope I'll greet the young person who visits me with warm chocolate chip cookies and old stories of joy and hope and love. And I'll tell them what Jesus taught. He said we're to love God, love people. I'll tell them about Alma, who loved me. And when the gentle soul who visits me turns 85, I hope they'll tell the same stories to yet another young visitor as the chain of love that is the gospel of Christ continues unbroken. was a young woman who grew up in the lower Midwest, but she attended college in the Northeast, where the winter arrives a little earlier and stays a little longer than she was accustomed to. When she took her finals in May of her freshman year, spring was just starting to take over in that little town of Pennsylvania. The buds were barely opening up on the trees. Well, her mother came to drive her home, and exhausted by the days of studying and tests, she fell asleep in the car and didn't wake up until they were just a few miles from home. When she woke, she looked around in amazement. It was like a tropical paradise. Everything was alive, everything in bloom. She drank in the deep green of the grass, and the trees were full of glossy leaves arching along the road, the flowers and the plants growing in everyone's front yard. She had been starved for the green and the warmth of spring, and she hadn't even realized what she'd been missing until she got back home.
Call me friend, friend. You call me friend, and I love to hear your voice, and I love to hear your voice. I love to hear you call your friend. You know me by name, you know me by name. You treasure my very life. You treasure my very life. You've captured my heart and I'm your friend. You call me friend. You call me friend. I'm your friend. You call me friend. I am your friend.
Often I find myself longing for home, like Odysseus in Homer's Odyssey or Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. I get by. I might not even think much about what I'm missing back home, like the young college student. We all survive tests and trials of all kinds. Exhausted, someday we'll lay down to rest. And after a short sleep, we too will be home. But not just for a few hours. We'll be home to stay. And it will be more beautiful than we ever dreamed possible because God Himself is preparing this home.
Say the grass is green as jade in the promised land. Mossy trees give endless shade in the promised land. Crystal waters flow
I needed at that moment to hear his voice of comfort. I waited and heard nothing. I was so exhausted from my confrontation with God that I turned on the television. There, on the screen, were God's words as clear to me as if he were speaking them himself. I sat so still because I was in awe of the fact that God had spoken directly to me in my time of true need through your show. I just wanted to let you know that your show is not in vain, for it touched my life last night more than I can ever express.
If you would like to learn more about how you can support the Worship Network, please call now.